drop.
Hey, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for
Morning,
bearing with
everyone.
us. We had a bit of tech issues. I had the similar yesterday with also with Town Hall. I don't know if I need to look into some of the settings. Things are changing as of late in Zooms and whatnot. Well, good morning, good afternoon. I know it's evening for some. How's everyone doing today?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, we're fine. Thanks.
Yeah, we are.
All good, Danny.
That's awesome. I wasn't sure how many people will come to the morning session, so it's really good. We have a pretty decent room, and I think it will allow for also some good conversations because there are not too many of us, so it's really cool. So good to have you. All right, awesome.
Good morning.
Morning, Stephen.
Good morning. Sorry, I just woke up.
I think we're all, many of us are in the same boat. We're trying.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have about an hour to spend today. We should finish about 5 to 10 minutes before the next top of the hour. Obviously, there will be a second session later today as well. We do have another meeting that we should be able to run to on our end. So hopefully we can at 55 conclude in terms of like timing expectations. Chris, do you want to share the Myra just so that we can maybe run through the agenda? So we did share a brief agenda, a proposed agenda that I put on the Telegram and then also included in the chats. Wait for a second until the screen comes up. Mostly the items were coming from our perspective. I did offer a space if there's been any changes or if there's anything else that anyone in the room would like to add to the mix today. Feel free to do so. You can either come off mute or you can drop it in the chat and we can tackle that topic at any point as well. And I know Stephen has submitted the one with the topic of remuneration of challenge teams. I did have a brief read today as well on the post that you shared, Stephen. There was some really good work. I appreciate it about the post on the East Cardano ethical.
Yeah, I can just draw, I mean, because people can go view the recording of that, but there's 3 slides at the heart of it, which if we have time to go through, that'd be great. But if not, that's fine.
Awesome. So let's put at 9:45, let's get to that. Would that be a good timing for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I really just meant to be discussion points. Absolutely. If we can fit it in, that'd be great.
Awesome. So at the latest,
Yeah.
let's get to that at 45. So then we have a good 10 minutes on the topic and
yeah,
circle to it. Okay, awesome. All right. Yeah, so I think for the most part today, what we want to do, we want to tease out some of the experiences. I think it's been a while. I think we have 2 distinct topics. Mostly one is specifically holistically about challenge teams. I know we've had recently concluded some of the closeouts, especially the deliverables, number 3, like looking at the macro level of like what the challenges were about, how the projects have been working or not, and like what the progress. And I think it's great to see, especially even the Fund 7 ones coming to a close, because that one's been quite a long in time in coming as it was the first iteration. So that's the patience there is extremely appreciated. So we've been learning over the past couple of town halls with some of those insights as well. So that's great that we've been able to share that with the community. And then the other one is with regards to the pilot that was introduced since Fund 9 and since November, and that's the proof of achievement and the process and what are the things that we're feeling, seeing, hearing in regards to that, and how can we perhaps iterate based on what you guys and gals have seen and how we can iterate that process forward as well. So I think these 2 distinct topics, and then obviously we can also then close out with the remuneration by Stephen agenda item. How does that sound? Would that be a good flow for today? Awesome.
good.
All right. Anyone wants to kick us off? Like, let's start with the topic of the challenge teams more broadly. Like, how's that going? How you've seen it? What are your impressions? Things of that nature. If anyone wants to kick us off, that'd be awesome. And we can probably capture some of those notes on the board, Chris, if we can bring it up.
I'll do that.
Perhaps I start. I think challenge teams really just came to life in Fund 9. Before that, and it's probably a bit unfair to say, 7 was kind of like finding the feet on the ground, 8 was kind of like wobbling along, and 9 was kind of, now it becomes clearer where the added value comes in. Specifically kind of now with what we're doing in the depth challenge. The thing which kind of like is for me, aside of the content of the challenge, just to go to the selection process of people, that's kind of like a topic which we can do better, I think. Yeah. So it's kind of like it was always a little bit wobbly process in my mind, kind of to get onto a challenge. So if you can do some work on that side, I would highly appreciate that too. And I would leave the space for others.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of the selection that probably needs to be a bit refined, but I think the current way of assembling the challenge team reflects the initial idea of perhaps rewarding the initial proposer of that challenge setting in Catalyst as a way to also, of course, a lot of people could have joined the challenge team when they were forming, which did not have a role in submitting that challenge in the previous fund. But I think that was also a big part of where the idea came from initially.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It's just a very unstructured process, or kind of like, and we can see that because there is also a lot of backwards and forwards of emails and communication until we have settled then challenge teams, and then so perhaps we can try to optimize that a little bit.
Thank you both. I'll just reiterate, I did paste the link to the Miro board directly in the chat if you want to jump in there. Again, edit access has been granted, so you'll be able to add the stickies. Not everyone may be comfortable talking, or maybe also too early, not in a mood just yet. So if you are in that camp, that's totally okay. Feel free to just chime in with a sticky, and we can also call it out and discuss it as a group. But would love to capture that sentiment as well. So you'll find the link in the chat. Edit access granted. Feel free to add the stickies where we are there. Thank you, Anna, Andreas, and Thorsten for kicking us off.
Perhaps kind of like, I take then the next one if no one wants to take it. The proof of life is a proper sucker. Of course, you're sitting around wasting your time as a team and people don't show up. So my proposal on that side would be use a tool where people book effectively a slot in a diary. And if they don't book the slot, bad luck. So that at least kind of we are not wasting our time sitting around for an hour with 5 people.
Nice. So it could be something like
Calendly or whatever.
Calendly. Yeah.
So that just kind of have then slots which people can book, let's say for a week's cadence or so, and then everyone should be able kind of to do that. And if we have then a team calendar, then someone will be able to pick that up. And if we configure that properly, people would be able to book a slot, and then you actually know where you are with stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Thorsten. Lynn?
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello from down under.
Hi.
By the way, I'm from Eastern Hemisphere, and I'm start to do challenge team from challenge team Fund 7, 8, and 9 as the team lead for 8 and 9. So my experience for booking for POL is I'm spend around maybe 60 minutes before that days. I'm judging everyone, are you do, based once Lucio sent out or whoever sent out the Excel file. So I'm find out whoever going to do it, I'm judging them. So I have 2 and 4 for sub Zoom, but I just use 1 for Fund 9. Before that, Fund 8 and Fund 7, me and Vladimir, we not really cool up with that Fund 7, but Fund 8 we get better, and Fund 9 I just use only 1 and finish it up for 13 proposal. So I don't Jason. They show or they don't, but I Jason them before whatever that time. So I think that's from us, because we fortunate that our proposal, most of proposal is in hemisphere or some in USA. So we Jason them so before the time. So we pretty much save our own our time. That's my experience on the POL. So we don't have problem with Fund 9. So after 2 fund, that's learning curve. So that's my input.
Yeah, there's a second one actually, which is there are effectively 2 elements. People who don't have to do a proof of life anymore, that we kind of weed them out. And the second thing is, don't do it per challenge team, do it agnostically. Someone submitted in 2 challenges, then they kind of get chased by 2. It just causes a lot of confusion who actually did or didn't do proof of life. And it kind of is a lot back and forwards communication. Perhaps we can take that out of the challenge teams, perhaps fund it as a group which kind of comes from different challenge teams, and have kind of like an agnostic proof of life challenge covering all time zones, so that people kind of just do it, and then the challenge teams kind of get the feedback, yep, this person did proof of life, rather than everyone is chasing effectively the individual people around.
Miro. Thank you, Thorsten.
Yes.
And Lynn.
I think actually, yeah, in the end of the day, challenge team get paid for that situation with proof of life. So I don't see any kind of problem to be 2 times per week in this start phase, I will say like that, and do the job. So my opinion is maybe different than Thorsten, but I feel him.
Well, we will come to remediation afterwards, but kind of like if you take these hours and the stuff you do and take then kind of the current pay for that one, it becomes a penny job. Yeah. In some countries below minimum wage. So I have a busy schedule, and I couldn't do a lot of proof of life, thanks to Anna Maria and Raris, who kind of like suffered through all of that. I think we can optimize that, just be more resourceful also with the time of people. Doesn't matter whether you pay for it or not, just be resourceful.
Yeah, and respectful of people's time. I think that's the important part there, right? That unless there's tooling involved, and people can have a clear understanding of what's expected of them and when they should turn up, even if they have booked an appointment, if things go south, you just want to make sure that you've got enough, you've done enough to make you feel like you're supported, they're supported. And if there's not tooling in place, then I can see how you're not. For sure.
And it also comes down to the fact that we want to be more meaningful with the time that we spend as human beings. A lot of those things can and will be hopefully alleviated by the tooling. Instead of like spending on the admin, we could be spending the time collectively on coaching and mentoring these projects as a side effect, right? So the less we spend on mundane admin tasks, the more we can spend on actually giving them quality support that then actually repos through their project down the line, and sort of like creates a better supporting structure. So yep.
And
actually,
sorry, no.
I was about to say that I'm actually a bit curious as to what happened with the projects that did not complete their proof of life, because in our challenge, we had a lot of projects. Obviously, there were 78 funded. And I think out of those, approximately 10 or 15 never came to any of the proof of life sessions that were supposed to do a proof of life. So except those that had the proof of life previously approved, because we didn't find any guidance as to what was supposed to be done in that situation, or we don't know ultimately what happened with those projects. Obviously, I think they were somehow proof of life by the IO team, or because they ended up receiving their initial batch of funds and subsequent milestones, but there wasn't guidance. And I think this doesn't only apply to the challenge teams themselves, but also to the funded proposers. So I think there needs to be more stricter guidance as to what happens in case you miss it. Because I agree with Thorsten, it would be very helpful to have a system of setting up time slots, but I think in practice, ultimately, it won't make that much of a big of a difference, because even now we had these time slots communicated, and projects that have confirmed that they will be, but who eventually didn't show up. So at the end of the day, it will probably make little difference to people who don't show up if they booked a Calendly invite or not.
I agree with you, but if they don't do it, it's fine. I get it. But at least you know that you don't have to be at a certain place. So at least it more or less don't waste your time.
No,
I think the
that's why I said I completely agree with
yeah,
you,
the question is, would you miss an appointment with your bank manager? And at the end of the day, people ask for funds, in some cases quite substantially, and they cannot be bothered even to show up. It doesn't really matter how big the amount of money is. It's always a kind of a substantial amount of money, even if it's little money. And out of respect also to the community, it should be clear how the process is. Which leads me to the second topic, which is we need actually documented processes in some cases. People are
sorry on that subject, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mean, how far do you think the tasks that challenge teams do are administrative tasks, audit tasks, or quality assurance tasks, and how relevant are those to maturity standards?
Which was what the last part was, what standards?
How relevant are they to maturity standards? Like, how can we progress what we're doing to, and I'm sorry, I didn't want to preempt what you're saying, but yeah, you're now talking about documentation. Yes, Torsten. Yeah.
I mean, you make an interesting statement there, because the prerequisite kind of a standard is already missing. But assuming that we more or less kind of have that in place, I think there is a fair amount of and Roberto is doing a great job from the IOG side, but I think every one of us, at least I do, if I see that something goes sour, then I more or less try to reach out to the proposer. And I mean, for them, it's not really clear with whom they have to deal, which is on the one hand side good, but on the other side, ultimately, it helps the communication, because there is a tremendous amount of misunderstanding on the proposer side of this process. I submitted my report. No, you didn't. Yes, I did submit my monthly report. Well, you have to submit a proof of milestone. And all of this, even with people which are long time in the community, they don't necessarily understand this administrative elements. There is a tolerance, but also a part of moaning on that side there, because it seems to be not crisp clear. And I think a documented process, say you have to do this, would actually help and would take a little bit more of the administrative work out. So I'm chasing people now and say, Did you see the comment from IOG? No, where do I have to look? Oh, let me make you a screenshot. This is what you have to do. Oh, I don't know how to do that. That's all administrative stuff. That's not even assessing anything. Yeah.
It'd be good if it was a living document as well, because
Yes.
I mean that sort of hand helps with people's expectations and the context. So people's expectations is like, okay, this is administrative task. It's to say what is the administrative task and why that needs to be done. And I sort of take what IOD is saying, that needs to be like as time sensitive and as efficient as possible. But then there's the innovation side, because we want the other reason we're doing that is to improve the quality of our decentralized work. You know, so and that's kind of like a positive message, Torsten, that maybe we could put across in a living document. So.
Yeah, there is a second element to that one, which is it helps, or it would help in some cases, to understand time expectations. When does what have to be done by when, and what is the way to deal with it if it doesn't. So Roberta is doing a tremendous job at the moment, kind of on the challenge team side, to kind of say, hey, there is that and that stuff submitted. Can you please have a look at it? That's probably an administrative overburden, which hopefully kind of we will in the future handle through a tool, but also kind of like it creates sometimes a lot of stress, specifically at the beginning when we had kind of the SOM, so the statement of milestones. When you have to deal with quite a lot of them, it creates a tremendous time pressure. For me, it meant kind of I could write off a whole week of work, because actually I didn't do anything else than on last minute kind of approving stuff. Yeah. And if that becomes more plannable, because there is a process and timelines attached to it, it becomes easier.
Absolutely. To add to that, it is something that we've been also quite keenly aware of, because it does affect us directly in being able to process the payments in a timely manner. Ever since we came back, especially from the January and the holiday break, there was a mountain that we were trying to chew away, that did throw a bit of a wrench into things. One of the key things that the team is currently working on is, and it's almost to the point of being ready to be published, and then we can seek the input, is the guideline on the processes, right? So like, instead of, as you mentioned, sending screenshots, like this is how you should do it, or like these are the steps to take. There will be a document, much like we have one for the funded projects, but it's not comprehensive enough to cover like all these different nuances. So that's currently in the works, and I have high aspirations that will help tremendously. Other things that we're doing in the background currently is, and you might have seen it in how the distribution this month went. When we compare it to the previous month and this one, there is a tremendous drop in queries back, like why the funds were not, for example, distributed. This time around, we could count them on one hand handsomely, which is really, really cool, because last month we had about like 20-30 instances and the mailbox just exploded. This time around, it was just 5. And one of those things are the improvements on the tooling and how we actually pre-screen a lot of things. So like Lucio and Marek are working on validation points, such as, is the project now out of the regular payments, and is only final payment outstanding? We were able to eliminate like tens of reports out of the way, which sped up the entire process, because there was no report to be submitted on a monthly basis, because only one last payment is outstanding. And in that way, we were able to proactively then distribute messaging to those projects like, hey, there is no more payments coming your way because a closeout needs to be completed first. And that cleaned up a lot of email traffic, and that enables better time to be spent. So instances like this are helping us to pre-clean on the admin, so that by the time what comes out on the other end, it's more to the individual edge cases where we can help support individually, and everybody else is doing some fantastic work on those chats and then communication with those project teams. And I'm seeing in the comments from their side as well how appreciative of that work they are. Miro, I know you have your hand up. I just wanted to double check. Are we forgetting you, or would you like to? Okay.
No, sorry.
No problem. I know at some point, okay, I'll just circle back to a question that Anna and others had in terms of the proof of life, which were not met through the challenge teams. It's true, we did individually chase the projects just to make sure that we could meet that first distribution deadline and not delay any longer for a lot of those rest of the projects that met the requirements on time. There are, though, I think 1, 2, maybe 3 projects that haven't been onboarded to date. And I know that last week we had the first project come through to just do the test transaction, and there's another one that just came by. So there's still some projects that haven't even completed the first basic steps, and they're sort of coming around. And I know like here and there's a couple of them, but mostly we did chase them individually, and that's how we've cleared them a proof of life in that sense. Somewhere in between there, I saw Lucio. You were about to say something, right? Okay, cool.
Yes, exactly what you just said. I am the ghost challenge team, like trying to get all the remaining proof of life. One thing that I guess to explain why the proof of life is structured at the moment with the by challenge team, it's that because that's the first time you have the chance to meet the people that are in your challenge, the proposals that are in your challenge. So it's kind of probably a way to get the first contact in this way. That's what was, I guess, at the beginning in our mind when we structured it in this way. Obviously, when it comes to people that are in different challenges, it's a waste of time in to some extent. So yeah, I guess we can, of course, optimize this part of the process. And second thing about all the administrative tasks that are part of the challenge team role right now, I guess with the proper tooling, and we are developing, we are almost completed the milestone module, so hopefully we will release it soon. So a lot of these problems will be addressed by the tool, like having a notification when a proposal in your challenge submitted a proof of life and you have to review it, and at the same time, from the other side, a proposal will receive a notification when they received a review for a proof of achievement or for a statement of milestone. So this type of things probably will really improve with the proper tool. And as everything in Catalyst, it's a living process. So obviously we are adapting day by day to the things that we are discovering. So all these type of things that are just problems, administrative tasks, probably will be addressed with the tool.
Yeah, can we also have a conversation perhaps about the length of the runtime of a project? I mean, I have some which kind of smashed it into months, and I have others who didn't even do M1. So I'm quite happy to do this work. I just kind of can see that will start stacking up. Yeah, so you're kind of still chewing up some stuff from Fund 9. And if you're in the challenge team for Fund 10, you start chewing up stuff from Fund 10. And I don't know, some are super long running and they have quite a big ticket also attached. Yeah.
Is that relevant to how explicit the length of your proposal is? So maybe that's also to look at the proposal submission process. I noticed like Chris, for example, you're doing your kind of, oh, come on, let's close down these proposals, have targets, but each proposal is going to be different, isn't it? Some are going to have a longer cadence than others. Some may be a year long, some may be 3 months long. So it's not always appropriate to say, come on, everyone, let's cross the finish line, because there's going to be different finish lines.
Yeah, let me address a couple of those points, particularly through the lens of Fund 10. So you're absolutely right. It's really challenging if you've got a project that is forecasting out for 3 years, or certainly beyond a year or whatnot. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a breadth of projects and different types of focuses that means that one project to the next is going to be very different. So having had a look at, you know, the previous funds and, you know, all of our learnings today, got to think about what seems feasible for Catalyst and what is feasible for the people outside of the team, such as yourselves, that are participating in this type of role, and also for our own team and for our own sanity. And, you know, what is the spirit of Catalyst all about? It should be sort of grassroots, bottom-up innovation, right? So to me, like a 2 to 3 year project doesn't really fit that model so well. And I'm not saying it doesn't have a place, nor will it not ever have a place. It definitely will have a place. But should Catalyst in its current format be the right venue for large scale, you know, $1 million multi-year projects? Arguably not. So we, you know, and I'll give you an insight. We're suggesting that projects should be expected to last between 2 to 12 months in Fund 10.
Right.
And then, you know, and that at least gives it some sort of realistic boundaries for which, you know, people that want to participate in this type of role, or, you know, just generally more broadly for the community's understanding, to have some expectation as to what's going to be able to be delivered within a reasonable amount of time, right?
Yeah.
So that feels like it's sort of addresses some of it. The other side to it is you know, the size and the scale of the project. And you know, I think if people are realistic and pragmatic, yeah, if you've got a massive roadmap, that should be a 2 to 3 year project. It's undoubtedly able to be broken down.
Yeah, I suppose it's communicating that, Chris, isn't it? Is just and also how to contextualize the fund. So, you know, is to say, look, you know, and also to say, I suppose, to get community buy-in on that. So to say, look, you know, this fund is for projects that are 2 to 12 months. Why? Because of the cadence of the fund and what we're trying to achieve in a decentralized manner. And then also, I suppose you need to relate that to the amount of what people should expect from the proportion of each challenge, like not more than 20%, taking 20% and all that kind of, as a rough guideline, because it kind of does impinge on that issue as well, because people might have these big multi-stage projects, but they have a responsibility to not completely dominate treasury, for example, and also to break up, as you say, what they're doing.
There's you know, once we're presenting all of the information about Fund 10 and SVE, you'll become a bit clearer. But yeah, I mean, this idea of introducing some sort of limits and caps to a challenge in terms of how much you should be able to propose within one proposal makes a lot of sense as well. You know what, I think the way that I like to look at it is like there should be a minimum amount of projects that get funded in a fund for the amount of money that's available. And, you know, a minimum would mean that, you know, everybody's maxed out the cap, maxed out the limit, right? And so, you know, we've seen 200 projects just over funded in Fund 9. I think, you know, as a bare minimum, you'd want to see like 100 projects funded in the next fund. And what I mean by that is that's if every approved project is, you know, applied for the maximum amount, right? As I said, it's a balance, isn't it, really? Because, you know, you want to deliver value for the ecosystem. You want to make sure that people feel like they're not too tightly bound to having to reduce a scope or something. But on the other hand, we know that there are sort of resource requirements, both internally and limitations internally and externally, that we need to account for. And if we're trying to do this in a decentralized manner and, you know, decentralize the verification and auditability of these projects, we can't just be like ignorant of, oh, well, there's all of a sudden 400 projects that are funded in Fund 10 and all of them are statement of milestones.
I think it's great. I think it's great, Chris, because also you can, like, maybe I agree, and we, the community, can start talking about scale and the scale of our ambition in general. Like, yes, of course, we are going to go towards a decentralized system. No, we can't do it all at once. You know, so to be realistic and say, look, you know, we have to cut our cloth and all that, you know, so we have this amount of drawdown from Treasury. We want to, as you say, I think it's great to have these limits, because also you don't have one, which can be quite, from a perception point of view, quite dispiriting when one proposal takes a huge slice of Treasury or a huge part of a challenge. So,
Yeah,
you know, that's great.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that you're supportive of that idea, because it is it would be a change and a shift, right? You know, propose how much you need to propose within this bracket or whatnot. And as I said, you know, in time to come, there will be these, you know, like you can imagine in Fund 11 and 12, rather than there being a cap, well, that's just the type of category or tier that you're applying into. And if you need $500,000 to change the world, then you need to apply through a slightly different process, right? With a different level of scrutiny, and then, you know, accountability comes with it. So
there'll be more efficient use of the administrative time that we have as well.
And you know, maybe then that becomes more for the MBO to be more involved, or, you know, a different type of assessment process, right? It necessarily has been a one-size-fits-all approach, but we're quickly outgrowing that model, and Fund 9 was a watershed moment, I believe, for all of that. But yeah, great discussion. I'm glad you helped.
Awesome. Lynn has a hand up, so let's give him a closing remarks on this topic, and then Stephen, if you can get ready for you might want to share something, and if so, I'll stop sharing. You'll just let me know. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Lynn?
Can I go ahead? Yeah. I think I have a tiny wish. So I believe that we may have POA from Fund 10, I believe. So for all the challenge, I hope it is. So what would say for the challenge team, right? Because I be as a member and then a team lead for 3 challenge now, from Fund 7 to Fund 9. So I believe that whoever wrote the challenge, yes, that person have an automation. I mean, the automatic be in the challenge team, but whoever wish to join the challenge team, not just put a name there. Whoever wrote the challenge should give a criteria. Okay, to be the challenge, you have this much time apart from the administrative, whatever that you can mention about. The main point here, who able to audit the proposal should have a minimum base of knowledge. Example, Dale, Stephen, pretty good. But if you ask me to do Dale, I have no idea. If you talk about hacking, yes, I'm pretty good at that. Forensics, I'm pretty good about that. But if you ask me to do legal, I have no idea. So the challenge, whoever wrote the challenge and who wishes to be in that challenge should have a minimal criteria. All the way, the proposal say, hey, how can you audit me like that? You just based on my delivery and you tick it off. That's not right. But another hand, what if someone from Asia and I'm do some challenge there, and the guy submit, I prove all the way, and the guy say, hey, this guy, you're the same country. That's the way it is. So the transparent as well as the knowledge is really crucial. What I see that from my experience, that's helped the Project Catholic to grow in a bit transparency and transparently, and the way that we can grow easily. So knowledge and
can I just ask you just to go back on over that final point? So you were saying, can you just repeat what you meant about, like, if there's, so like you're in East Asia, there's someone that's in the same country.
The example, right? Because a lot of Vietnamese proposal, even though I'm not based in Vietnam, but what if I take care of some proposal from Vietnam? Say, then I see it's all right. I just, not truly all in with on the, that month POA, and then I tick the box and I pass to the IOG. And then I have the argument for that because you demo the video, you show this and show that, because I know him, that pretty much the call trust, right? Because you be here for long enough to know people, but people can turn, Doge can come up anytime. So the knowledge tick the box. Okay, you tick the box, and that message onto the public. It should be onto the public, because that we need some independent ruling to view that, not just a challenge team only. Not before payout, but progressively. It's like monthly. So when it's done, put on the public. When it's done, pay, put on public. And then whoever that, they just have, again, this is called cross-checking. So that's make the challenge team more comfort and responsibility as well. So that's my view.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we do.
Thank you.
We do try to make as much of it as public as possible. There are, the statement of milestones and proof of achievement sheets, but it's not easy. I mean, I don't think many people understand where all of those sheets live, and that'll become easier once we sort of roll out this new tooling for sure. I absolutely agree with you that it's important that there are a number of eyes that are looking at proof of achievement, particularly for high value projects, for sure. And they should come under public scrutiny. There's nothing that I don't disagree with there, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just I'm just going to take a selection of slides from the presentation, which, I mean, if people want to look at the overall recording, just so that we can move on to some talking points around remuneration. If I share a screen, yeah. Okay, the overall, what I'm trying to, can people see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, the overall objective here was to, is Cardano ethical? It may sound provocative, but it's really just to generate interest and discussion on contributions and rewards, just as Chris was talking about, how do we start thinking in the age of Voltaire about these issues? And with some of the others are working with, like Emmerich and all that, we're starting to look at some academic background. And in particular, the impetus for this was a paper called The Ethics of Blockchain in Organizations. And this 2022 is quite a recent paper, examines decentralized people operations, or DPO. And that's interesting and relevant in the context of the impact of human interactions and human decision making. So to start to look at innovation and the academic materials around this. On remuneration, this is just to provide, to some context in terms of what do we mean by remuneration? Okay, what are the expectations? So traditionally it refers to compensation or payment made to an individual for their services, time and efforts in their job or profession. Some commonly express that as the amount of remuneration should reflect the contribution made. But others in the blockchain terms express that as the token provided should reflect the contribution made. Okay, so, and then also, how does this sit in the context of Cardano blockchain stakeholders and community participants who are remunerated from Treasury? So in past iterations of Catalyst, that's taken the form of rewarding voters, proposal advisors, referrers, and challenge teams. So how does the challenge teams fit in that, in terms of expectations and, who's getting what and why they're getting what? And also relating all of this to, SIP 1694 and all that. So paying challenge teams. So to date, challenge teams have been asked to onboard proposers, live, present the challenge at a town hall, write a final report. And at present, I know there's some tweaks here. At present, each challenge team receive the same payment amount or fee drawn from Cardano Treasury, a portion to Project Catalyst. So the number of, as we've been discussing here, actually, the number of proposals of support needed will vary per challenge. and challenge teams receive the same payment regardless of currently, regardless of the number of proposals, the number and experience of challenge team members, the amount of support each proposal may need, and the scale of the budget's proposals in the challenge. And I know that we've actually addressed some of those now. Finally, in Fund 9, additional funds are made available for the approval of milestones in the DAP challenge, as I understand it, and that's meant to cover the review of the statement of milestones and approval of proof of milestones, and Torsten touched on some of those issues.
Just for correctness, Stephen, on that one.
Yeah.
Actually, it was for all projects in the DAP challenge and for all projects above 75,000 in all the others.
Right. Okay, I'll correct that in the presentation. Okay. So I tried to sort of like just pull out some factors that maybe we can talk about. Like, so what factors should inform what people are paid? Remuneration for challenge teams, a number of proposals, the number and experience of challenge team members, the composition, experience, and mentorship required in each team, the amount of support each proposal may need. Again, we've touched upon that. The work required to engage with each proposal. Some proposals are more familiar with the process than others. I think Lynn and others would pick it up on this. The timing of payments is important to sustain and support participation. I think this is really something we'll come across a lot, where a release of payment to each challenge team stage, onboarding or another stage, would support people doing relevant work just completed, because not everyone does the same work. And also that kind of incentivizes the work as well, because if I do this, then I get paid. The scale of budget and the expected level of scrutiny, which actually Chris just mentioned, apportioning different levels of budget, so that's very relevant to that, and also that's relevant, of course, or relative to the expected level of scrutiny. So if you have a proposal with a lower budget, then you apply different standards to it. But then again, there's the expectation of what am I going to get paid for that? What's been remunerated in relation to that? And then finally, the administrative burden or workload. For example, time spent on proof of life, presentations, milestone statements, and proof of completion. And that's more about how that they're not paid the same. Okay, so they're different types of tasks. Some of them may be more administrative, and some of them may be more qualitative or quality assurance type tasks. So I'll sort of shut up there and stop the share, and that is really just meant to get us thinking about remuneration.
Let me give you a feedback on the size.
Yeah.
Actually, the work which you have to put in to do the assurance, you could now argue, do we have to put the work in? That's a different discussion. But when you have to put the work in, the little ones sometimes are more burdened than the big ones. And the reason for that is the small proposals normally kind of are living not in the same level of professionalism in itself, if that kind of makes sense. Like, I don't want to say they're unprofessional, but what I'm trying to say is they're not full-time activities someone is executing. So in some cases, the big ones were easier kind of to cross the line than the little ones. And the effort in itself for the little ones was actually higher than for the big ones. Not from a time perspective insofar as they had more backwards and forwards discussions about stuff. Yeah, ultimately you get there because you help then effectively the proposer along and say, come on, if you do this and this and this, then you will get there. It's just kind of like not necessarily the size of the submitted funds equals on the assurance side the amount of time you have to spend on that.
That's a really interesting point, and also it's quite counterintuitive, because you think, oh right, okay, this huge organization or a huge proposal, a big development project, you think, oh, okay, let's apportion now more resources to it, more administrative resources and so on. But I agree with you, Torsten. I think a lot of it is actually, if people are doing smaller projects, they say up to 20,000 or around that figure, or they're often more new to a project. They have less experience and maybe need more guidance, and that kind of inexperience requires a greater administrative burden and more of a burden for mentorship from the community as well. So I can see how you could have this kind of weird situation where the smaller proposals actually have more resources given to them, more remuneration given to them than say a big development project by someone else who knows what they're doing. Sorry, Lynn, sorry, you got a hand up there.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, I'm not facilitator. I'm kind of.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just jump in.
I have a very quick one. Just an idea only, right? Example $5,000 now is pretty good to start with. Any from next, then what about job that involve for current, the current workload? I don't know, because I'm not going to sign up my name for next challenge anyway. I need a break. So from Fontaine, I believe that any single proposal need to do POA. Is POA at the moment $100? Pretty good, I think. Pretty good. It's POA. It doesn't matter. Now, I just add another layer, which is, as I said, because I want to look for transparency, right? So any proposal said, if it is above $20,000 from Fontaine, then they have one tick box, not tick box, but they give 1 week buffer after the challenge team, then challenge team done, and then this is only applying for proposal above 20,000 from Fontaine's only, right? So we give 1 week buffer for public. If anyone have we just say, okay, that proposal is public. There is a channel. If anyone visit, come and go, it's up to them. So they will help the challenge team as well. So that way, after a week, then see whatever feedback then, because public, they have a lot of knowledge, they have a lot of eyes, a lot of brain, a lot of time. Of course, they want to contribute, is fine, but there is a way that after 1 week, then they go to IOG. So that's one more public view for 1 week for any proposal above $20,000. So I think that we utilize we cannot just let the big project, just get the money and run. So that's what my view. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't want to create the impression that we should be lax on bigger projects. Yeah, so there is a burden of mentorship for smaller projects, but as you say, there's also that's kind of balanced out by greater responsibility. I'm not sure if you would put it that way, Lynn, for greater amount of budget, because a bigger budget means that a greater amount is being drawn down by Treasury. Yeah, Lynn. So that means like, okay, these people have drawn all this money from Treasury. They may be really good at what they do, but that's no excuse for not being more transparent, accountable, etc. Yeah.
Go ahead, Thorsten. Give us some concluding remarks. We're at the top of the hour, so I think we're gonna be
thank you for
slowly.
that. I think we probably also have to kind of think about the number of milestones. I get it. There was a limit now to 4. Most of them use 3. But depending on the size and delivery and the time frame, it sometimes is a little bit of a stretch. Also, kind of like, I wouldn't mind to check in on a project which runs over a year 6 times. And if I have a project which is running 2 months, to check in 4 times or 3 times in itself is probably too often.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and again, for Fund 10, we'll sort of make it a bit more flexible with guidance that's smaller projects should necessarily have smaller numbers of milestones. Larger projects should have more.
Exactly. And then you have a more fluid way to do things, and it's not kind of chewing big things every 3 months or something like that. Yeah, because that it creates pressure on a number of areas. Kind of like some of the evidence, it's all there, but then you have to kind of get through it because it's a 3 months period. It becomes then it becomes more work. That's not the one, that's fine, but it also becomes under time pressure because Now you have to eat a bigger chunk, but the timeline kind of by when it has to be done in itself stays. So if we can try to balance that a little bit more, and I don't have a silver bullet for that one, but that would really help.
Yeah, I think it's just like trying to give people more clarity as to what kind of is likely to be expected. As we say, smaller projects less, larger projects more. But and hopefully time bound within the 12 months.
Awesome. Well, we are at top of the hour. I hope you found it as insightful as I did. If anyone has anything that they would like to get off their chest that we forgot, feel free to come off the mic now or drop it in the chat. There will be another session this afternoon. I think it's set at 3 p.m. UTC. So if you would like to dive and drive some of these conversations in there as well, you're more than welcome to come by as well. We will record the second session. We will make this one available as well. And we'll be working out of this Miro board. It will remain editable for the course of today. And then we'll close it down just so that there's no unforeseen changes and whatnot. So feel free, if there's something else that you would have thought of during the course of the day or during the meeting we haven't talked about, feel free to grab a sticky and paste it in any of these 4 boxes. I'm sure we're gonna get some eyes on it, and it will also help the rest of the group to see where the thinking is. So how's everyone doing? Was it time well spent? How are we feeling?
It was just a very quick last one, which just popped in my mind. It would help the challenge team member to know when they get paid for what, because I cannot reconcile anymore whether you paid me fairly or not. I just trust and believe you. At the end of the day, kind of after 3 months period, I don't know how many. I mean, I could keep a spreadsheet. I don't know how many milestones I actually ticked off and signed off and how much work I put in.
Very good point. We had this conversation with Lucio the other day. He did whip up an amazing spreadsheet right now. So we're trialing it, but we're now tracking line by line as the new milestones come in, especially. And the goal
so Lucio, you're not adding metadata to transactions yet, then? Honestly, what are you doing?
It's not me sending out transaction, no, so not on me.
Yeah, metadata is something that we would like to utilize. Unfortunately, the structure that we currently have in place internally just doesn't allow that for us. But hopefully with the changes going forward, we're going to have a bit of more flexibility in terms of adding into it.
So what I'm trying to say is, if someone is doing 4 weeks of work, pay them after 4 weeks or 6 weeks, but get a more frequent cadence in, because it's a bit, how shall I say that? It needs some stamina kind of to keep going.
You are right.
Without seeing the remediation. Yeah.
We just had that conversation that basically what we'll be doing is, and we did it for the first time in January, that for the first distribution in February, we're cleaned up everything up until end of January. And then expectation in February will be that for the first distribution in March for funded projects, we're going to close out all the work in February, exactly for that predictability and also fairness, so that you can have more predictable and accountable rewards coming in, so that we no longer have months in between when there's payments. So we've tried it in January, we're gonna iterate on it in February, but the expectation is that, especially for the reviewing work, whatever was done up until the end of the month of the preceding, then the first collection that we're going to have with funded projects, that's when we want to send out the payment. So it's almost like a monthly paycheck. That's where we want to get in an ideal scenario. And then obviously closing out all the other deliverables for the general challenge teams as soon as they're coming in. So
that's fine. Yep. It was just a comment from my side. I see that you're on it.
It makes 100% sense, and like you're right. We want to make sure that it's equitable. So talking what Stephen was also talking about in his presentation about the ethics, like I think that's also a fundamental part of it. So hopefully that's going to be welcome.
I can repeat the same format this afternoon if you like, but of course, whatever you want to do.
If you have time and desire, I would very much love to.
Okay. What I would like to do in this afternoon session, I want to spend 5-7 minutes with Lucio just whizzing through a demo of the milestone tool. And at least we've got it covered, like in one of the 2 meetings.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really
Maybe I can just do one slide from the presentation, just on the factors in form and remuneration.
good idea.
Yeah, so that we're not repeating stuff. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy to do that, Chris. Anyway.
Appreciate it. Really do. Great session, guys. Really, really valuable. And thank you for all your hard work over these months, particularly when it's been, you know, sticky back plastic and bits of string holding it all together. You guys are the glue, you're the adhesive, and we really value your inputs.
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you at 3 p.m. UTC, maybe some of you. And for the rest of you, again, thank you for your time today. And please stay tuned on the channels. I will also distribute the outcome via email. So those who couldn't make it, they'll be able to review the outcomes of today's session. So thank you so much. And till next time.
Cheers all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
everyone.
day. Thank you.